should be good. So I have to be my own camera person, which is difficult at times, but rewarding when I get it right. Yeah. Cool. Nice. Awesome. Yeah, but yeah. So I was talking to Jacob.
Right.
Is he still going in class?
Yes, definitely.
He was I think what is today, Friday? Mm-hmm. So I might go over tomorrow and see him. But is Kevin like in person? Is he coming yet?
No, he will do the whole semester online, unfortunately.
And he's being a priest, right?
That's what I know, yes.
Yeah, I like that. But the Latin, yeah, I don't know. So we kind of just like hop into it. I kind of wish usually how it goes. His name is Clemens, and he'd be here, and he would just start it, and we would like already be in a conversation, and it would just continue on.
Right.
But he's not here.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I just wanted to get things. But so I'll just go with this. So how do I pronounce your name?
That's a good question. Okay, so my name is Matthieu. Matthieu. So it's the French version of Matthieu.
Okay.
Why I got this French name, even though I'm Dutch, the story is this. French names in the Netherlands are more common, I think, than here. You know, you have a lot of Jacquelines and Jean-Pierre and all that stuff, especially in the south. One part of the country borders French-speaking Belgium. So always over many generations there has been a lot of French influence in the Netherlands, and my mother at that time, when she got pregnant with me, was working in an office, and her employer was from that part of the country, and he also got a son whom he named Matthieu, and my mother liked the name so much that she gave it to me.
That's nice. So in the Netherlands, is the main language French?
No, not at all. No, it's Dutch.
Okay.
Which is a language similar to actually English or older English and German.
Okay. So I feel like I'm so naive in other countries. I don't know if that's not the right word for it, but like we were saying before, there's messes up. I can't get all the words all the time, but I don't want to say ignorant, but other countries I'm uncultured. I say it's hard. I feel like I wonder how do you like, because you said you moved here in 2007, right? So what is like the stereotype? I feel like the U.S. people have to look at us like we're a bunch of jadrules, a bunch of idiots, because I feel like we are very self-centered and don't really know any other politics other than our own.
Well, there's a lot of cliches or stereotypes about Americans in Europe in general and the Netherlands too, based on what people observe in the media and television and movies about America, because that the American influence culture is so omnipresent everywhere in the world, but especially in Western Europe, that the people have fixed ideas of what America is like, and to some extent those ideas are very accurate. So me coming here in 2007, actually I'd been here already earlier, I think, when was it, 2000 and something, around 2000 actually. I spent a couple months in Notre Dame in Indiana, and that's actually where the first time when all those ideas I had about America got tested, and a lot of it turned out to be true and also different. I've been here now so long that I cannot actually give an adequate answer to your question, because I'm not the same person anymore as I was back then, which means I also have not immediate access anymore to what I was thinking back then. Where am I going with this answer? Well, about cliches about Americans, perhaps. I recall on Dutch television when I grew up, there was this commercial for, I think, I don't know what it was, but it involved American tourists in the Netherlands, and the Americans, they looked at, in every situation, they looked at something and they said, "Oh, this is a boat. Well, our boats are huge.
Yeah.
Our boats are massive." And when they walked to, a shop, they sort of observed how small everything was in the Netherlands and how massive everything was in America. So that's sort of a cliche about Americans. They like to pride themselves that everything is bigger here.
Yeah, it's not always better though. Like our huge portions of food are massive yachts. Like it's not always the best. And I think it's really interesting. Like the media portrayals are very important because the media is how we know each other. I feel like it's from news, movies, or whatever. Like my family's from Indiana, like my dad's side. Well, like from Germany, but in Indiana now. But like I've never been to Indiana. Like the only thing I know about Indiana or California or the Netherlands is what I see on TV or what I hear about in the news or see in movies.
Right.
And I'm studying TV, radio, and film, and when movies and TV and honestly the news also are to entertain, it's kind of dangerous because you don't get like an accurate representation of what a place is. Like we were talking about New Jersey, and the Jersey Shore is like the classic go-to show when you think about Jersey. And it's just a bunch of partiers, spray tanned with weird hair. Like that's not what Jersey's like at all. Like maybe a small part of down the shore, but not like northern Jersey where it's beautiful trees, like nice scenery, hiking trails, and it's just dangerous sometimes.
Yeah, but it's unavoidable, no? I mean, we have so much information overwhelming us. We can only digest so much, and indeed, the stories that make it from far to your own world, they do that for some type of reason, and that sometimes involves some hyping and exaggerating or confirmation of cliches. I mean, in Dutch newspapers, there's a lot of coverage on the United States, but of course, much of it also involves confirmation of cliches, because that is what people triggers people to read it.
Exactly.
Things like mass murderers or crazies with all these weapons. That's the type of thing that gets across in other countries.
It grabs people's attention.
Yeah.
Like we learned when I was a broadcast journalism major when I first came in here. One of the first things we learned is like if it bleeds, it leads. So if it grabs someone's attention, like if it's someone killing someone, like that's gonna get people to read it, not a Boy Scout helped an old lady cross the street.
Right.
Like bad things grab people's attention, and that's what makes money, and that's what I'm learning in the production class I'm telling you about, like the business side of the media. It's like everything we have to be, as consumers, we have to be it's like called media literacy. We have to be media literate. So there's like 5 questions. You have to know who's putting the information out, why are they putting it out, what audience are they trying to reach, why are they trying to reach that audience, like, and it's most people aren't media literate because how people just see it and like, oh, this is the truth.
Right. Yeah.
But I think if we're aware of why things are being produced and who they're being produced for, and like actually asking questions of why is this in front of me, like it will help so many people because we'll see the reasons people are doing things, and I think that's important. Like if you know the reason why someone's doing something, even if it's like a bully, like why are you being a bully? It's like, oh, I have a messed up childhood, or I'm insecure about myself. If you know the reasons, then it's like, oh, that makes sense, instead of you're just an asshole.
Yeah, it definitely helps to get rid of easy judgments, and it will also be easier to find solutions, I guess.
Yeah, but I think we're in an age of technology where it's new. Like we're saying when you came to the U.S., I was still like riding little tricycles. So like, I was only 7, but even when I was in middle school, we didn't have iPhones. We didn't have like laptops really. I mean, I guess we did, but not to the extent now.
Right.
And the age of technology, or I like to call it the age of information, I feel like we're in, is new.
Yeah, and it's totally changing humanity. I'm convinced it makes us different human beings, and we cannot foresee the consequences of this whole revolution that's going on. Actually.
Yeah, we're still learning. Like
Right.
we've never had all this information, at least that we know of, ever before in history.
Right.
Like you would have to, if you wanted to reach someone in the Netherlands, you'd have to like, I don't know, write a letter. It would reach a month.
Yeah.
Or not months, like however long it took, like, but now you just give a cell phone call, and now with 5G, it's gonna be even quicker in places that don't have, I don't know, I only read a little bit about 5G, but they're like connecting places that don't have like Wi-Fi or whatever, and just giving them like connectivity.
This is a technology that works without Wi-Fi, or
It's like, I think they're putting like satellites up in the sky, and then I don't know how it works entirely. I'm no Wi-Fi person, but what I've learned from it, it's like, you know how your phone has like 4G, like it used to have 3G, but this 5G is supposed to, I don't know, just give places. It's just like satellite. I'm not explaining this well at all because I don't understand it well enough too. But it's supposed to give places like that don't have Wi-Fi or connectivity to the internet access now.
Right.
With these new satellites. It's like satellite radio, pretty much, but for Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
I don't understand it, but it's interesting, and it is really interesting. But I think once we learn, like anything that comes new, like fire, people probably burnt down forests and trees before they learned, oh, you have to like put stones around it to cook food. Like this thing is so dangerous, but we need to know how to contain it. But we don't know how to contain information right now. That's,
no, and we don't even know. I mean, the things that we easily could control, like those monoliths like Facebook and so forth. Even there, we don't seem to be able to develop some basic legislation to say that who's in charge of what is an allowable thing to say in the web is cannot be determined by Mark Zuckerberg, but by the U.S. government. We even don't seem to be able to do that.
No, and it's that we see by the lawsuits, and honestly, that's what we're learning about now. Just like all this, like they're literally selling, like Google, the ABC is like their parent company or whatever, or just taking our information and selling it to advertisers. Like most people don't know it, but we think of ourselves as consumers, but we're the product.
Right.
We are literally the product, and we're being sold. Our information's being sold to these advertising companies, so Google can make billions of dollars off of us, and then they can shove ads down our throat to make us buy their shit. And it's kind of, I personally don't like that, and that's why I like Apple, because they're really, they're concerned about privacy, and they respect their clients, which is cool.
I hope you're right.
Yeah, I hope so too. It's scary, but I don't know what direction we're going in. We need smart and morally just people like going into these fields.
Right. Well, I think with the new government, things we might develop hope to that is going to happen. Also, it involves international cooperation, because these are global corporations. If they don't like legislation in one country, they'll just base themselves in another country. So the only approach would be international, through the UN and with Europe and Japan and China. Without that type of cooperation, we will fail to protect this this freedom that we have, because it is about freedom.
Yeah. Do you think we'll be able to do that? Like, because I feel like I don't know much about the UO, but it seems like these countries haven't really been getting along or on the same page recently.
No, that's very true, and you know the previous administration didn't make things better in the country. So yeah, and having been here for a while, I've grown more and more pessimistic, I must say. Even though I'm an optimist by nature, I think that's yeah. Maybe when we get back to the topic of cliches and that thing. What sort of happened with me and my attitude towards US was realizing that a lot of what I believed was a cliche turned out to be true after all. And I'm talking here about radical people on the right of the political spectrum who are bigots and racists. Willing to use violence protected by the Second Amendment. That's sort of a lot of veils have fallen from before my eyes.
Yeah, scary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yes.
But that's the thing. Like personally, I love the Second Amendment. I think it's the most important thing because if we don't have freedom of speech, like where does the line get drawn of what you can say and what you can't say? Like I talked about with my friend the other day, like censorship is very dangerous, and I took a media ethics class last year, and we talked about this very thing. Like this was our main topic of discussion, like censorship and the Second Amendment, and what like on Newhouse, the Second Amendment is literally written on the building outside, like the entire thing. It's so important, and because hate is so dangerous, like. In our philosophy, I forgot who it was, but there, who was it? I don't want to say Aristotle. It was someone before him, but one of these thinkers back in ancient days was they thought of hate as the separator of the universe and love as the unifying force. And they didn't think of it as like, well, some people claim like they didn't think of it as like emotional facts, but the hate, I think it's interesting how they used hate and love as their two words, that hate separated everything, and love was the only thing that could bring things together. So it's like we need, like the hate's always going to be there, that evil, that darkness, there's always going to be that here, and we really do need like the love to counter it, because there's like cycles of like a love state, and then the fall of love, and the hate rises, and then it's a hate state, and then the hate falls and the love rises, and then it's just a constant cycle. But we need to counter all this bad stuff with better stuff. We need light, which I think is interesting. But it's so hard to keep our heads up sometimes.
As a philosopher, sort of a philosopher myself, and sort of classicist myself, I feel called out to who is this again? Is this Thales of Miletus?
Yes, okay. I think so. Yes, it was. So I'm glad you did the name.
Did a good guess.
Yes, it was. Yeah, there's so many names like this. I pick up on the ideas, not the.
That's
the
a good thing. That's
but I think it's so. That's why I love philosophy so much. So I think it's interesting. Like we need to think more. We really do.
Right.
We need to ask questions. Like Plato was definitely right. Like we need to question everything, especially authority, because we can't be compliant and stagnant.
Right.
We have to keep going.
But going back to that freedom of speech and hatred, which is an interesting topic. How do you protect freedom of speech when it is under assault from hate speech, or how can you indeed, where do you draw the line? Because there definitely is somewhere a line as to what you can say. Not everything should be protected under the freedom of speech.
Yeah. So there was. I'm trying to remember these classes now. There's some things I remember and some things I don't. But there are. I think you can't harm someone in your speech. There are lines of what you can and can't say. Like, you can't yell bomb or fire in a movie theater. Like, you can't say there's a bomb on an airplane. Like, there are restrictions to what you can say, but I'm trying to think. There are lines, but I do think you're right. Like, there is so much hate speech, and like there's conspiracies and all this fake news and all this false information. But I think we saw on, like, personally, I'll say I don't like Trump, but I think banning him from Twitter was a bad call. You need, I think that you can't silence someone. Like, taking away someone's voice from all platforms, doesn't matter if they're a shithead. Like, I think you really need to give people the chance to talk. And if you're media literate, you're like, oh, this guy's insane, let's just not acknowledge him.
Yeah. Well, I would disagree with you in that I do think that people should be banned for spreading lies and so forth. I just don't think that it should be in the hands of this company, Twitter or Facebook or whatever, to make the decision. I think it's very scary that private companies, decide because perhaps they have their own internal policies on the basis of which they make those decisions. But this is a matter that is of no political importance. So it should be the law actually that makes decisions here, or the people who develop the laws to come up with a framework as to what is allowed and what is not, and only they should be able to make the decision, or a judge.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're so right. What about, like, if the government, because the media is supposed to be like the fourth estate, like the protector of the people, like making sure that the government's in check. So if we do give the power, like hypothetically, whatever, we give the power to censor to the government, do you think that's dangerous? Because then you give the people in power the sense to, like, censor people.
No, but we have the principle of the trias politica, no? So the judges, the juridical system is in principle totally independent from those other branches. So the whole idea of that is that they keep each other in check, and also the press, of course, is a factor in that. They all, establish a sort of harmony or balance of powers. So that's what we're doing all the time already, and have been doing since when was it, 87 or something?
Yeah, 1776.
Oh, 77. 87, was that the French Revolution? I always get those dates wrong. This would be not anything new if we grant judges the right to intervene.
Yeah, I think when you're talking about the lies, I think that's really important thing to touch on, because lying is so bad. Like, having false information, all this fake stuff, it makes it so hard to have these branches of government have checks and balances. Because when there's corruption and, like, I'll use darkness as a metaphor, like darkness, these evil people, like, doing things for money or power, whatever their reasons are, it's hard to have checks and balances, because right now it seems like everything is like lobbying, and big corporations are coming in and giving them lots of money, and when something doesn't go their way or whatever it is, they just seem to be bent by money and power and greed, and it's hard. I don't know how we're supposed to get back on track from that.
It's true. I mean, without a shared understanding of what the facts are, things get out of hand pretty quickly, as we've seen very recently. So my thinking is much shaped by what I read from people like Timothy Snyder. I don't know if you know him.
I'm not sure.
I think he's a professor at Yale. He's a historian, and he wrote a booklet on I forgot the title, something like The End of Democracy. He's published extensively on what's going on in Russia with Vladimir Putin, and how he sort of paved the way for much of which Trump put into practice himself. just it starts all with breaking down the notion that there is something like an objective truth that everyone accepts. If you get away with truth, then you can do whatever you want. So the lie is really a very powerful instrument for people who to break apart the established structures that we've followed for many centuries, and do something new. And Trump tried to do it, and was almost successful with it. So yeah, we came through the eye of the needle, and we're not out of the woods yet.
Yeah. So what is he talking about in the book? Like,
Well,
what is the idea behind it?
So I had to think of him because his claim with regard to the Trump administration is that the legacy is that this untruth, this lie that he put into the world, namely that he lost the election, which he did not.
Yeah.
And that is totally corrosive. That's undermining our democracy, because we have now this massive part of the population. I think 90% of all the Republican people who vote Republican who follow this lie. So we have no agreement about this basic fact: who won the election, which justifies violent insurrection. So our democracy is really at stake. And I say our, I'm not a citizen here, but I have started to identify enough with this country to feel I can say this. And besides, it is my democracy too, because if things go wrong here, the repercussions worldwide will be huge.
Yeah.
And they already are. If you look, for instance, at Burma, a country where the military just took over a couple of weeks ago.
Our military?
The Burmese military.
Okay.
They killed democracy there, with the lie again that the elections were fraudulent, because they had actually lost the elections, the party that represented the military. So immediately we see how this plays out in other countries. People use this trick, just say the elections were fraudulent. That allows you to take over with violence, with military might. And this is just one country. I'm sure that there will be many more.
Yeah, it's weird. You give someone I like the objective truth thing, because I feel like these people think they're doing the right things, that think Trump won the election, even though he called up the Georgia senator. And did you hear that?
Yeah, sure.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And he was like, we need to find 11,000 votes. It's like, Mr. President, we counted 3 times. Like, you didn't win. He's like, we need to find 11,000. Give me a break. Like, cut me some slack. It's like, you didn't win. But when you tell these people, like the people that stormed the riot, like Capitol building, they think Trump won because that's their truth. And they think they're doing the right thing, when in reality, hey, didn't win. But I don't know, how do we find, like, how do we get the information out, like the truth? How do we cut through these lies, because there's so many in the world? Like, I don't know.
Things in this country went wrong in many ways when a law that enforced some form of objective reporting onto the media was abandoned under Ronald Reagan. That situation gave birth to broadcasts, programs like Fox, and the subsequent hate radios, Rush Limbaugh and Glenn Beck and all these fascists. This false reporting and hate speech have been infiltrating the minds and hearts of American people for decades now. And one way to stop this is actually reinstitute a law that forces businesses like Fox News to do honest reporting, and otherwise they have to get shut down. I think the state needs to be way more active in this respect.
Yeah.
And I know that this is all, if I say this, if a listener to Fox Radio would hear this, he would consider this already a fascist
Yeah.
type of attack, no?
Yeah, but that goes back to the media literacy. Look who's giving you the information and why they're giving it. For even the Fox, they're in lawsuits for that exact thing, putting out false information,
Right.
and they got out of it because they're an entertainment company.
That's
Come on, like it's right there.
right.
But what happened in the Reagan administration that had this shift?
I forgot the name of this law that guaranteed or that enforced objective, a certain degree of objectivity in news broadcasts. I just actually read about this the other day in the New York Times, so I don't know all the details that well, and I can always say, I'm not a citizen of this country.
Yeah.
I don't need to know all these details.
Exactly. I feel like I definitely should. I need to start reading more. But
do read the New York Times every day.
yeah, I know I should.
You have to.
I
Yes.
know. I really should. That's another thing. Like when we were talking before, it's just finding that information that is like because this is a long form conversation. Everyone doesn't have time to listen to this every day. But
And we might add that people are probably sick and tired of
Yeah.
political discussions as we
Yeah.
are doing right now.
because all they do is just blah 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 blah. It's never okay. We need solutions. Like give us the objective truth, give us the facts, and we'll make our own opinions from that. If I want to listen to someone blabber on about their thoughts on it, like I could come to a podcast. Like I don't need to see that on the news.
Right.
The news is there to report, and I think that's so. If we could actually go back to having them, I don't know how you would even go about it, but having a law and state of saying, okay, you report the truth, and like I would love like if news things actually did this. They had like a 10-minute briefing every morning, just saying these are the facts. This is what you need to know. This is what's going on in the world. That would be amazing. I would listen to that every morning, but like it's so hard to find where truth is, like because Fox, CNN, all these places have motives, and I don't know. I like to go to the Guardian because they're non-US company, and they're run by donations, which I think is awesome. But I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we can support those news outlets, but it's I'm not sure whether we can change anything fundamentally without better laws that protect the truth, in as far as of course we can never claim to know what the truth is. I mean that's of course a difficult question. There is no such thing as immediate access to the truth. No, people participate. To use a Platonic image, now we all partake of the truth in various ways, but in various degrees too. No, not everyone who says something speaks the truth to an equal degree.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we need more state involvement and more taxes because it costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
And
no one likes taxes though.
Well, we have to. We need that is I think one of the core issues of this country. We pay too few taxes, and that contributes to the huge increase of disparity, inequality.
Yeah.
And a lot of money needs to go to the media. So I listen to the German news a lot. So Deutschlandfunk, Deutschlandradio. That's German. In no country in the world, I think, the taxpayers pay so much money to support public media. But so people complain about it a lot. But it's the award is that the quality of those media is excellent. So there are, I think, 4 or 5 state media programs that only bring news or interpretation, also some music and classical and so forth. But most of it is news, backgrounds, deep research, reportages on everything that goes on in the world. A lot of discussions of new books, movies, culture. I could listen to the German radio every day, and it's if you need to learn a modern language, then I would say learn German because their media is so fantastic.
I think that's really, really cool how they do that, because if these media companies didn't have to worry about making money and they were funded and they could take that weight off their shoulders and like, hey, let's actually do what our job is.
Right.
They would have so much. And I like to think of it as like, it's a common resource. I forgot the exact phrase for it, but it's a common resource that helps everyone. So like you can think of it like a lighthouse.
Mm-hmm.
Like the lighthouse is helpful to, I mean, I guess not anymore, but lighthouses were helpful to everyone to show where you were. And but to build that lighthouse, everyone has to pay to get it.
Yeah.
But if people cut corners and don't pay, then more people have to pay more. And if everyone gets on the same page, like, oh, this is a good thing, we need this, let's put money into it, then you have a lighthouse. And it's the same thing with media. I think that's really cool. I didn't know Germany was doing that.
Yeah, no, it's they do. And in many European countries, the situation is comparable, I think, but maybe only Switzerland and Scandinavian countries are sort of as good with state-funded media as Germany is. But of course, the sort of the political shadow side of this story is that in Germany, I know there's political parties, usually to the right of the spectrum, who say, well, those state media that we have, they are totally biased towards the left, and the first thing they want to do as soon as they get into power, and in some federal states within Germany they already have power, is cut back that type of funding because they are sick and tired of this so-called leftist propaganda. So also there you see there's disagreement on what the truth is, what facts are, and some people feel totally not represented by this model of media, and that's of course a huge problem. And this problem actually led to the situation we have here in the US, because this discussion went on in the US in the 1980s, way before you were born, no?
Yeah.
And before the time, you only had here, I think, ABC and NBC and nothing more on television. So the situation was actually pretty comparable to what we still have in Europe. But then those monoliths were broken up, and the market was allowed to reign in media broadcast and news broadcast. And as a result, we have this.
Yeah.
With also the political consequences. I think there's a direct connection between those.
So what do you think we can do? Like, what direction can we go in? Because it seems like every turn we take, there's a big scary monster there ready to gobble us up.
No, I mean, I said that I think the state should be more involved. Better laws should be made to protect freedom and to prevent lies. But how to do that exactly, I don't know. I'm not a lawmaker myself. I don't have any juridical background. So it's very easy for me to shout all types of crazy solutions. And besides, maybe we cannot go back to the situation as it was. I think that ship might have passed already. I think this treasure has gone lost forever, perhaps.
Jeez, that stinks.
Yeah.
There's got to be a way we could find it, though. Like, we got to take steps, because we've seen what works, or what kind of works, and what doesn't work. And I mean, we could go back to the 1930s and 40s in Germany and seeing how propaganda can really brainwash not even an entire country, because a lot of people disagree with it, but get enough people behind it with lies and to get someone backing it. And that's, I don't know, I feel like that's why we need different perspectives, because you're right, like, it's so hard to find an objective truth, but it's like looking at a statue in like a museum. You could look at it straight on, and one person's gonna have one point of view on it, someone's at the side, but if you bring them all together, you can actually get an idea of what that statue is, if that makes sense.
No, I like that idea. That's also again sort of Platonic. No, you have all those different views, and only the combination of those views might actually, capture what the object of that view in itself is.
Yeah.
So plurality is indeed crucial. But what I think in this country, what gets very often confused is plurality with market. And I think that the whole market approach to media and to news, that's wrong. I think that.
What do you mean by that?
Well, if news is a matter of profit,
Mm.
you only bring that what sells well, and if it helps you to sell it better, to exaggerate or to turn it into a lie, or have propagandists like Tucker Carlson or so, totally deform news and give it his own twist to it.
Yeah, to get viewers.
And then I think that is a bad form of entertainment, as you just said. Now, Fox is an entertainment company according to the law. So we need plurality, but we need more plurality. We need less market.
Okay. So what would you just find as like plurality?
Well, viewpoints that come from from a whole range of different political standpoints. Maybe what I also think in this context is that the political landscape in this country is not pluralistic enough, because we only have those two parties, and yes, of course, both of those parties are sort of umbrellas that cover a lot of different voices, but still this two-party system, I think, does not do justice to the widely bigger plurality of ideas that is being produced by 300 million people. So we need, I think, a reform of the political system where there is more plurality. We need a parliamentary system, as we have in many European countries.
Yeah.
Not that that's ideal, but I think it's better.
Yeah, and I think you're still talking about the umbrella for both parties. I feel like each party, the voices that are heard are the ones that are more extreme. Like, it feels like the middle, even though most citizens and most people in this country are in the middle, like you have ideas from both sides, but the voices that are heard from each side are the extremists of each, and I think it seems like it's either you're on our side or you're not. Like, it literally seems like you're playing on a sports team, or like you're rooting for a sports team. It's like, I'm Republican, ride or die. Like, I don't care what you say, everything you say is wrong. And I think, like, I really want the third party, like the Libertarian Party, or even the Green Party, to rise. Like, they need a big candidate so they can actually get on the board. But I think we see it because I'm pretty in the middle. Like, I wouldn't identify as a Republican or a Democrat. Like, I think capitalism's good. I think we need money. Like, you need the competition to run to get people going. Capitalism's good in some forms, but to the extreme, it's not when you are twisting stuff to make a product. But I also like the environment. Like, I think we should be helping people, like having education for everyone, which is more to the left. So I think the way I look at these parties, we need these parties to not fight, but to have differing ideas, so you can take the best, like the plurality thing again, to take the best out of each and find that middle.
Yeah, the partisanship is really very problematic, and if we had a system here where there are 10 or 15 parties in Congress and the Senate, then automatically you will have to come up with forms of governance that are based on coalitions and consensus, and that can only happen if this sacred trinity of lawgivers, the governments, the administration, and juridical legs of the American Constitution, if that gets reformed, because this whole system can only work with a House of Congress that has two parties, because it's all based on representation from a certain geography.
Yeah.
That will take, it will be a very long and arduous process to change that into something else.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, in parliamentary systems that we see in Europe, they are as much in crisis of legitimacy. Also, their extremism is getting stronger and stronger. So, I don't want to present myself here as sort of the European asshole who
Yeah.
comes here to tell Americans that they should become more European. I don't think that's how it will work.
Yeah. It seems like there are problems everywhere, but like we were talking about this before. It's just like before we got on the podcast. It's how are you supposed to govern 300 million people?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
the government, what I think the government should be doing is protecting the people, protecting them, but allowing them to live free. And for people to live freely, people have to think rationally. You can't have irrational people living in a country, because then how are you supposed to do anything? Everyone needs to think rationally, and I think that's what starts with education. But I don't know even how we are supposed to govern, because everyone's so individualized. Like, we learn this from a young age. Everyone's unique. Everyone has different thoughts and opinions and passions and beliefs. So how are we supposed to have one president or one government controlling everyone? And that's why I like libertarian point of views, like the government's step back. Like, I think they should be there just to like a referee, keep everyone in line, not be a part of the game.
Yeah, I feel sympathetic to that thought too, but I think in how it works out in the real world is that it all boils down to the right of the strongest. Because if you have no situation that actually actively protects the weak, people who are perhaps don't have as much brain as you have, then you will get a huge divide between people who have the means and the power and those who don't have that. I don't think that libertarianism is going to be practical or a practical solution. I think it's a utopia.
Yeah, I think you're very right on that, because the world we're living, it's not fair. That's why I really do think if everyone has, because obviously people come from different backgrounds, different homes, different ways of life. Like, literally, you could be born here or a different country. Like, I was so blessed to be born in New Jersey with a loving family, but I could have been born anywhere else in a broken home, or not having the opportunities to come to a university like this, where I can talk with knowledgeable people and professors that broaden my perspectives. Like, I got so blessed to be in this position. And that's why I do think we need to find a way. Like, obviously it's not going to happen overnight, probably not even in our lifetime, but we need to take steps to start getting to that point. And I do think it all starts with education. Like, for me, I do not understand how teachers and professors are so, there's so overlooked. I don't want to say overlooked, but there's not enough gratitude. Like, they're so important that we need to pay them more. They're the most important part of our society. They're our teachers. Like, I just read something today. It was a quote. It was like, I'm indebted to my father for bringing me here, but I'm indebted to my teachers for giving me a good life. Like, it's all about your teachers. And that's why, like, I was blessed to go to a school in high school, middle school, that taught me morals and beliefs and all this. But when schools are based on taxes of a community, if a community doesn't have money and it's not doing well, then the school is not going to have money.
Yeah, no, that's a huge problem here. It's all over the world, and I think even in the most advanced Scandinavian countries in Europe, it's money is always a problem. And we need to find ways to move money from rich communities to poor communities.
Yeah.
So we need to do some nivellation there.
We need to spread the wealth.
I guess.
There's enough of it to go around.
But I have two questions for you. First of all,
Yeah.
if education, you think a lot about education. So my question is, do you see a role for yourself in education at some point?
I don't know.
But hang on. The other question is, the name of this broadcast is Bad Educators?
Bad role models.
Bad role models, right.
It's kind of a joke.
So yeah, but maybe you can explain how does it fit into what you just said?
Yeah, so, well, I'll start with the first one. I don't know where my path's gonna lead. I just want to help, like, in any way I can. So if it's with this, helping people, bringing on smart people like yourself to start to educate people, like, have different perspectives, because that's the first step that I think. We can't get anywhere until people have love and respect for each other. So that's the first thing. And then you can't have love and respect for each other if you're not content with yourself. So the first thing we need to do, I think, is people need to start looking at themselves, finding peace. Like, it's so cliche, but like having love for themselves, because once you have love for yourselves, you can have love for others. And if you start, like, that's where it's eating healthy, working out, like doing all these things is so important. And it's not a one-day step, like everything takes so much time, but I really do think we could be a catalyst generation, catalyst time in our lives where we do have information connecting everyone. And like, this is never before, like literally, someone could watch this in China.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not. But like, people could watch this in most countries. But like, we are at a point in time where the technology is scary, we don't understand it, but I think we can take steps. Like, once we get that, people can have respect, we could have a conversation. If we get the truth out, like, none of this stuff's gonna happen overnight, but we need to take steps. And I think maybe one day, like, I'll go into politics far down the line, and maybe I'll start making changes there, but I'm meeting people here that, like, that's, like, I don't know my route, but if I could even change one person's perspective, that's like a butterfly effect, or a ripple. You throw a rock in the water, the ripple effect goes, like, I don't know.
The butterfly might not be the most fortunate image, no? Because it's the butterfly here and a hurricane there.
Yeah, but I like the ripple, because that's the theme song I use. You throw, I like the Grateful Dead, so it's their song that I play at the beginning. It's all about, like, love, and so it's a really cool song. But that ripple effect, throwing like the whole thing, is like, whatever. We don't need to get into the song.
Okay.
But the rock into the water, and just affecting one person, like, that's why my dad always taught me kindness. Like, just being kind to people literally could change someone's entire day, like, entire life. Like, even just a smile or a wave or being nice to someone who's down on their luck or sad or depressed could literally change someone's entire life. Just a smile, just being kind, being there for someone. I felt it myself when someone picks me up, like, and I try to do it for other people. Like, I don't want to be the person that makes someone feel bad, you know? I'd rather be the person that puts a smile on someone's face and makes them be happy to be alive.
Right.
You know, I've come a lot, I've grown, seen a lot of kids, my friends, take their lives over my lives. 6, 7 of my friends.
That's amazing. That's horrible.
It's terrible. And I come from a community that's well off, well educated, and you're like, why? Why is this happening? And it's heartbreaking.
Are there any patterns behind these?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. We could get into the social media type of thing, and that's what we were talking about before. Like, we see these people on TV or on social media where it's like, this is everyone's happy. Like, why aren't I happy? Because you post people. This is another thing, media literacy. Like, people don't understand, especially kids and teenagers, because your brain's not developed enough yet. You see something on Instagram and it's everyone smiling, or at a party. It's like, why wasn't I invited? Like, and then you get down on your luck. It's like, why aren't I happy? Like, why aren't I like them? And that's why I think education's so important, because if we get kids from a young age to realize like happiness is the key of life. Like who was that? That was Aristotle. Like he thought happiness is what everyone pursues in life. No matter what you do, it's in the end to be happy. Like you may think it's from doing drugs or having sex or making money or having power, but at the end of the day, none of those things are going to make you happy. None of those things will make you happy. It's just, but we all pursue it, but none of us know how to get there. So I do think education is so important so we can actually find people. So I don't know what my role is, but I am religious. I do believe like I'm on a path, because I could have, like my face, I told you I broke my face over break.
Hang on.
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether I knew this.
Yeah, so over break, I was like getting, I don't know, I was praying to be humbled, because we don't need to get into why, whatever.
Yeah.
I was praying to be humbled, and I was driving to soccer with my friends, and I was thinking about my career, because I was thinking about starting the podcast and doing all this stuff, and I'm like, I don't know what I would do without my face or my voice.
And this, hang on, this happened just right.
This happened over break in December.
Wow.
So because I was thinking about my career, I knew I wanted to start a podcast. I'm like, I don't know what I would do with my face or my voice. I parked my car, get out of the car, get an elbow to my zygomatic arch, my cheekbone, an inch below my temple, not even an inch, right below my temple, and right above my jaw. So I could have died if it was my friend. It wasn't his fault at all.
Oh.
It was such a fluke thing. We were just playing soccer. I was just trying to separate him from the ball, and I turned like this, and he went like this, and it got me right here. And if it was really, I'll show it on this side because the camera's here.
Yeah.
But if it was right above here, it would have been my temple, and I would have died. If it was an inch lower, it would have been my jaw, and my entire mouth would have been destroyed. But it was the perfect spot where it was an easy surgery, 4-week recovery. Like I can't really open my mouth wide still. I'm still trying to work on that. But I was blessed that.
And did the bone got fractured?
Oh yeah, 3 fractures in my 3 fractures in my zygomatic arch, and you see the X-ray, and the bone is literally just in. But I was so lucky. That's why I'm like my guardian angel or whatever it is, this higher power that I was praying to.
Right.
I think that's a pretty good humbling. You know, I was thinking about how my face was so important to me, and my voice, and they put the perfect spot where it wasn't my mouth. I didn't lose my voice, and I didn't lose my life. So I do think, I don't know why I'm here, but I know, like I don't want to say this, but I will. I went to Steubenville conference in New York with my church, which is, people that don't know that aren't religious. It's like a huge Jesus-loving thing where like thousands of kids or teenagers come to pray and like be nice to each other and like learn more about their faith. It's a really cool experience. I really recommend it for Catholics, but like obviously not everyone's Catholic. But I got so much out of it. So adoration we were doing, which is it sounds so crazy for people that didn't grow up with religion in their life, but you what is it called? Eucharistic Adoration. So it was we think the Lord or Jesus is the Lord's there present, and you pray in silence. Well, they were playing music, so it was kind of nice.
Right.
And I was a junior, and I was really struggling because I like to know my purpose. You know, I don't like to do things without knowing why I'm doing it. So that's why I always struggled in math. Well, I was pretty good at math, but like the things I knew why I was doing it, like why was I doing this thing, I would be able to do it.
Right.
Like I hate just doing things just to do them. I need to have a purpose.
Right.
So I was struggling at the time, like what is my purpose? Like why am I here? Like what is my purpose to be alive? And I was asking that question, and the answer I received, and that honestly brought me to tears, was like, I'm here the answer was, you're here to bring joy to others. That was my answer. And that filled me with warmth, that filled me with love, and I'm okay with that. Like, that is my purpose, and I'm going to do the best I can to bring it for others.
That's beautiful.
But yeah, I don't like saying that aloud, but like that's why I think I'm here, so that's what I'm going to say. So that was my long answer to answer your education
Thank you
question.
very much. Yeah, that's
But,
well, I see how this all is connected somehow. Like, indeed, there's an educational aspect to this podcast, and you mentioned earlier before that you were going to do a stand-up. Workshop, no?
Stand-up comedy. Yeah.
I mean, those are. I see how they can be connected to a person. Yeah, that's marvelous. That's wonderful.
We'll see. I need to. I got a long way to figure out myself before, but I'm just gonna keep on trucking. Like I used to have in my basement where I started this a little. It's actually my room. I should start bringing it with me again, but it's a little goofy, like Mickey Mouse.
Right.
Like, it's goofy in a trade, and like I like because there's another Grateful Dead song called Truckin', and I just like you just got to keep moving forward because I don't know which philosopher it was, but they're talking about like you can't be stagnant. Like you can't be still, like change, movement, you need that for life.
Heraclitus?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So, I think we got to keep moving, keep going in a good direction. But I do think the bad role models thing, that was another thing that just came to me. I'm like, well, what am I going to name this thing? I was going to be Just Talking, and I didn't really like that though. I think bad role models is kind of cool because it's like, it's just people, I don't know. Because obviously we're not bad role models. It's just, I just liked it.
And I don't think you had a bad role model yet in your series.
Yeah, no, it's all amazing people, and that's the whole thing. Like my whole thing, my mom taught me since I was a little kid. Like balance in life is the key. Like moderation is key. Like, and we're learning this in my logic class now. I'm like, oh my gosh, my mom's a philosopher. But it's like these things like drugs will not bring us happiness. Money will not bring us happiness. Like Professor Ryan, who's my teacher, said, like we can think of it like a Ferris wheel. Like drugs, you get on, it's a ride. It's pleasure. Pleasure and happiness are not the same things. So we need to know that difference. And a lot of people get caught up in that Ferris wheel and think this will bring me happiness, when in reality it's just pleasure.
Right.
So my whole thing is balance. And so that's like the bad role models, like the balance. And my logo, who Matt Fabrizio did the art for it, my friend from back home, amazing job. It's me in the middle, and it's like an angel on one side, and then like the devil on the other. And it's like really cool, because the whole thing is like, one's like giving a peace sign, and one's flipping the other one off. But like then there's me in the middle, it's like the balance. So, I don't know. But I do think it's interesting.
Even though you seem not to be drawn to the devil too much, no?
Yeah.
The picture might suggest that you are, torn to two sides.
Yeah.
I would never look at you in that same way.
I'm not really, like, I guess compared to other people, like not very torn to that side, but I do have my indulgences, like, and anyone else that are not great, but I'm working on it.
Would you like to share your worst indulgence?
Probably just alcohol and drugs is probably my biggest thing. So I'm trying to, because that's something my family struggle with on their own right. So I'm working on that on myself. So
well, those are biggies. No?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm definitely torn, but we'll get there. It's a work. It's a work in progress. Especially in college, alcohol is very prevalent everywhere.
Yeah, it seems so. Yeah, I mean, I yet have to figure out how that all works. I mean, I've been there only like 13 years, so you might expect that I know how that works better. But having not gone through the college experience here in the US myself, I'm always surprised to hear that it's such a big thing.
Yeah.
Because in where I'm from, there's I think less obsession, at least with alcohol. Well, drugs too. I mean, I come from a country that sort of used to be number one in drugs. No?
Yeah.
It never really no, it was never part of my upbringing. And
Yeah.
perhaps because it was perhaps easy to find weed or whatever, it never interested me. Alcohol too is something there's, of course, there's an age restriction. I think it's 18 now. But alcohol is available, especially in a family context. Children age 14, 15 or so drink their first wine, and it's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
So I'm always sort of shocked to find out that here people are so crazy about it.
And I think that really goes back to that whole education thing too, because like in Germany and those countries where it's like normalized, it's like moderation. Like you have in Italy, like you have a glass of wine with dinner, or in Germany, like you can have beer at 16 or something, and then when you're 18, you could have hard spirits or whatever they call it, sprites. I don't know.
Spirits.
Spirits. But here, I think it's because it is restricted, and people, when you say don't do that, people are gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna do that.
Right.
And that's why I really do think we need to legalize everything and put restrictions on them and make them safe, educate people, not say, like, because we had DARE programs, I don't know if you had that. Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
They suck.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing is like abstinence. It's like, these things are evil. Don't do that, they'll kill you. But then you do it, and it's like, oh, I'm still alive. Like, this thing didn't kill me. It's like, I'm still here.
Yeah, right.
But we need to educate and like teach people. Like, it is like the Ferris wheel. It's like, it will bring you pleasure, but you can't mistake the two.
Yeah.
And I do think once, like in the Netherlands, where everything is, because don't they have like mushrooms and all that legalized in dispensaries for that?
Yes, I mean the softer drugs,
Yeah.
So mushrooms and weed and all that stuff. Even though I think the quality of weed that's being produced in the Netherlands is now so strong, it's almost like a hard drug.
Yeah, it's dangerous. Because that's, I don't want to get this wrong, but for alcohol here, it got, I feel like, I don't remember the history of it, but it is that thing, and I think if we do like legalize it, make it not such a, I don't know, teach kids like the truth of it, because substances by themselves aren't evil in regards how you use them. You know, like that they're finding like these mushrooms have medical effects and can like pretty much cure anxiety and depression on doses, and if you have like a doctor like guiding you through, which is amazing. And a little email. But that's why like these things aren't evil by themselves, so we need to legalize them and put restrictions and help people get safe, because like our prisons are filled like, this is another thing with people that had a baggie of weed on them.
Yeah.
Like, that's ridiculous. And it goes into substance abuse, where people are getting locked in prison, a cell, like an animal, because they have a disease. That doesn't make sense to me. And I think, is it in the Netherlands where they're doing this, or maybe Switzerland, where instead of putting these people in prisons, they're putting them in like rehab centers, pretty much, like helping them get back on their feet, which I think is such a good step.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm not quite sure whether they do that in the Netherlands. I do know that the Netherlands is one of the countries with the lowest percentage of people locked up in prisons worldwide. So that's a huge difference to imprisonment policy here, which is, I think, indeed another one of those very dark aspects to U.S. In addition to that whole weapon crazy stuff that is totally wrong and evil and should be forbidden. Anyway, I fear I have to slowly move on because I need to speak to a student about Latin.
That's fair.
So let me just thank you for allowing me to be part of your podcast. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you for coming on.
Sure.
I appreciate it.
And
do you have to go right now?
I have a few more minutes, but we're slowly getting there. Yeah.
Okay. That's fine. Do you want to talk about one last topic then?
Sure.
What do you want? What do you want? What do you
Oh,
think?
What I well, I'm I would like to hear more about your religious side.
Yes, I'm Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe in a creator, a God. I think the Bible is like a children's book. It was written for people thousands of years ago, and we can't take it literally because it was written for them in that time period. And the New Testament, even though it was, they got, I forgot the king who set out, because after Jesus came, there was like this king who, an angel came to him and said, if you and your soldiers convert to Christianity, you'll win the war.
Oh, yeah, there are several of those stories. No?
Yeah.
We have Emperor Constantine,
Yeah.
who sort of became, well, it's not entirely clear whether he got Christian himself at that point. So we know he got baptized at the end of his life,
Mhm.
at his deathbed.
But yeah.
But he sort of turned the Roman Empire Christian.
Mhm. 'Cause then,
But there are more of those stories, like King Clovis, I think, of France,
yeah,
turned Catholic.
there's a lot.
Mm.
But then they got sent out all his people to get the writings of Peter, Paul, James,
Mm.
and all the other ones who wrote the Bible and put them together. So it's like kind of,
Ah.
but
So why did you say the children's book?
because we have to, it's perspective, going back to perspective. When we look at it from our perspective, it's like, this book is crazy. Like, this book is insane. But it was written for people 5,000 years ago in their time period, in their society. Like, that made sense for them.
Mm-hmm.
So we can't think of it as truth. Like, we have to look at it from their eyes and their society. And to truly understand it, you need to understand the society. And that's why I like the book, A Father Who Keeps His Promises, which I have like a chapter left. My priest recommended for me to read it. And it looks at the Old Testament from the eyes of the people it was written for, and relates it to stuff we can understand, like family and love and compassion. And now I'm starting to look at like science, because science is starting to like prove that there is a creator and all this stuff. And I'm looking at like the fourth dimension, which I think is really, really, really interesting, because the fourth dimension is separated from time and space. So hypothetically, if there is a God, which I do think there is, and he is in this, because I don't know, because he's supposed to be eternal and all-knowing. I don't understand all that stuff. This is just my little theory. But if it's in this fourth dimension, it's separated from time, and you can see everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything, because like we see this table, it's flat, we could see all of it. It would be the same way from looking at the fourth dimension or looking at the third dimension from the fourth dimension.
Mm-hmm.
So if he's in that fourth dimension, or even the fifth dimension, which is also a thing people are looking at, like, you could hypothetically be everywhere in time and space, and you could come down, send angels, which I do think, like spirits, just because we can't see them doesn't mean they're not there.
Mm-hmm.
Like my guardian angel protected me. Like I think we all see that in life. Like, I don't know, but I do think there is a creator. I do think there's a God. I think I believe, I have to believe. Like, if there's not, like, I don't know. What do you think? What is your perspective on this?
Well, I wouldn't think about it in terms of fourth or fifth dimensions in sort
Yeah, that's a
of
little crazy.
additional dimensions that we know, because it sounds a little bit like trying to sort of make God compatible with what we know about the world as we observe it. And I think the moment we are trying to do that, we are reducing
True.
God.
I think that's a good point. I retract my statement.
No, well, you have to try out these thoughts, no?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I grew up in a church tradition, the Dutch Reformed Church in the Netherlands, which is sort of comparable to Presbyterian here. I am now going to the Episcopal Church, a little bit closer, it seems to me, to the Catholic Church in terms of liturgy, but yeah, no, I'm not Catholic. So yeah, I do feel great affinity with it, and I'm not quite sure whether I could say that God has such a presence in my life, but I don't know. I'm searching, I guess, and I feel deeply connected to that world, to that tradition, and I'm always sort of offended if people reject it or attack it, even though I'm not the most burning defender and propagator of of it. Actually, I studied theology and philosophy, so I was actually about to enter ministry in my church. So I'm sort of professionally even deformed.
Yeah.
But discovered that it was not for me, and I found more satisfaction in education and classics. I also love the whole pagan stuff from the Christian perspective.
Yeah.
But again, I admire the extent to which you feel God and have an extensive life of prayer and all this stuff, which is stuff I would wish for. I could imagine myself being way more active in that respect. So, as it is now, it's not so much. If I manage to go to church every now and then, even well, COVID doesn't help. Then I feel I participate enough to satisfy that certain need, I guess. If we just talk about whether this is a need or not, then yeah, it's part of my life, but probably less intense than it is in your life.
Yeah, and I feel like in that sense, like I was raised like in church. Like I always went to church. Huge. My youth minister was huge in my life. Mark Tasso, awesome guy. I did podcasts with him. Like I think if you, I don't want to tell you to listen, but like I did one with my priest, Father Andrew and Mark Tasso, and like those we talked about a lot of this kind of stuff. But for me, like I think religion, like that whole, when we were talking about like we need all this stuff, is it going to bring us happiness? Father Andrew was telling me, it's like, we don't go to church to worship God. He doesn't need our prayer, like he doesn't, just splattered, but he doesn't need us worshiping him. We need that. He put this here for us, like to fill that hole. Like it's a hole that God and love, because love is God, because the Holy Trinity is the Holy Spirit, God and Jesus, at least from Catholic Christian point of view. And the Holy Spirit is the love. Like there's the Father and the Son, and to communicate that love, like in any relationship, you need the Holy Spirit, the connection between the two. I don't know if I'm saying this right. Like you're in theology, you understand it more than I do, and I'd love to have you on again to talk about this more. But I think for people, there's a song. It's like it's a country song. I like country music. I know you're a music guy, but not really country. But it's like, I'm afraid to talk to God because we haven't spoken in so long. Oh no, that's a Kanye song, Kanye West, because he's very religious too. It's right. I'm afraid to talk to God because we haven't spoken so long. But it's true. It's scary. Like when you are disconnected, you haven't had that like raising I was blessed to have. It's hard to connect. And my thing that my priest told me, it's like, if you don't believe in God, pray and ask to see him in your life. And like and he'll show himself. Like I think it's funny, like there's a priest and an atheist in a bar. I think we've heard the story. It's like, and they start talking about God, and then the priest is like, why don't you believe in God? And the atheist is like, well, I was stuck in a snowstorm fighting for my life, and I prayed to God. I said, God, if you're real, save me, help me, I need you, and I'll worship you. And then 2 Eskimos come along, save this guy's life, bring him back, and that's how he's there. And he's like, isn't that God? Like the priest asked, he's like, isn't that God? He's like, no, 2 Eskimos came along and saved me. Like God didn't save me. It's like, it's easy to pass up things as flukes or just crazy coincidences, but I think everyone can see God in life. Like love is God, that connection. When people get in their flow state, like when you're doing something you love, like when you play music
Right.
or when you sing, like you know that feeling, that connection, that love, that passion. Like for me, that is God. Like God is everything. God is beauty. It's
Have,
just
you- have
so
you never
nice.
considered yourself to go into church, like priesthood or?
Yeah, I thought about it. I don't know if it's for me. Maybe.
Might be your calling.
Yeah, could be. I'll have to look into it more. But
And talk with your spiritual advisors.
yeah, it might be. It could be. We'll see. My mom just was like, no. She wants kids. Yeah, I don't know. But
Mm.
we'll see. We will see. We'll keep on going. But I'll let you get to your student.
Yes.
But I do definitely want to talk to you more. I want to talk about like your classics and the Romans and religion more with you. I
Sure.
think that would be really cool.
Okay.
So we'll schedule something before the end of the semester, which would be cool.
Sounds good.
But-
Yes, let's do that.
Yeah, thank you for coming on.
Thanks
I
again
appreciate
for
it.
having me.
Yeah, no problem. Peace.
Yeah, you too.
Nice. That was fun.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. Most welcome.
Very interesting.